It's 8:10 in the a.m. And it's Labor Day on Monday. And some of you are thinking about excuses to party and go to the beach, but Labor Day is about much more serious matters, and that's what we're here to discuss on today's panel discussion. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Yes.
Welcome to Island Tea, everyone. And we are pretty excited today in studio. We have a very packed day, and we have lots of visitors. All right, so we'll go around the table and let them introduce themselves. Today's show, at least for the first hour, is dedicated to Labor Day and bringing awareness to the holiday and the purpose of the march. So we'll go right into it and let our guests introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stanley Franks, executive member of the St. Nevis and Labor Union, a staunch laborite. I'm here to give some perspectives on my knowledge, understanding of what the march is about, the labor movement on a whole, and what it was and what it is. I trust that my discussion or the views that I hold may be able to give assistance to people who don't really understand where it comes from.
Hear, hear.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Precious Mills, and I am the General Secretary of the St. Nevis Trades and Labor Union.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Liebert. I am former head of policy and labor relations at the Labor Department.
Yes, and we are delighted to have all of these guests here this morning with us as we discuss the Labor Day activities, its inception of the march that we will be having or takes place on Monday. And so let me ask all of you, Stanley, I know Stanley well because Stanley is actually my cousin. Yes, Mr. Franks. Yes. I know Precious as well, and I also know Michelle, so I feel like in a group and a room with persons
Nice
that
and
I
comfortable.
know. Yes. So we are looking at the inception of the march, and perhaps Mr. Franks would have a better recollection of how did it all start, the first march that we had here in St. Kitts?
Well, the first march in which the labor movement was involved goes all the way back to 1932.
Wow.
When the workers on Buckley's estate put down their field equipment and marched around, calling out the estate workers as they move along to come out, no work unless we got the right pay, the pay that we should get. And that went right through the whole island. In fact, the administrator at the time, or the governor, called in warships, so a warship came in, and to tell you that this upheaval spread from St. Kitts and went through the whole Caribbean. So that St. Kitts was the seat of the uprisings, all right?
Okay.
And it has followed through march after march after march until in 1952. You had the first Labor Day march. That is when the trade union and the Workers' League, it was not known as the Labour Party at that time, it was St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla Workers' League, had a march through the streets of Bastille celebrating Labor Day. Of course, there were marches before and so on with the grinning and so on. But it was the first Labor Day march was in 1952. And it has followed the tradition throughout to what it has become today.
Wow. Wealth of knowledge. I never knew about the whole 1932 and the warship aspect. You know, you always hear about the Buckley's uprising, but the warships part was definitely a new tidbit for me. Precious, I wanted to ask you, how have the preparations been? What are some of the things that you guys do in the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union office leading up to Labor Day? What are some of the activities or talks or whatever do you guys do in office?
Okay, so right now we are in the planning and preparation stage for Labor Day. We'll actually have a Working for Workers booth at the Patsy Allers Playfield. And so there we'll have a fundraising effort going on. We'll have food and drinks on sale. We'll have basically an environment whereby workers can come by and engage members of the union in terms of asking us questions that they will be curious about in terms of how to be part of the union, what are the benefits, and we're basically there to be a voice for the workers. So on that day, we're asking our workers to come by to our booth and engage us because, of course, we want to grow our membership. We know that they are workers, they have grievances. But for us at our office, we find that sometimes persons visit us often when there's an issue. But we want to change that. We want to say that we're there to educate you, we're there to be your representative, and so come and be part of the relations in terms of what our office offers.
Right, so don't just wait until you actually have a problem. You guys are open 24/7. You can come in, well, 5 days a week at least.
Yes.
You can come in and you know, engage us and find out what the union is all about.
Definitely. And this time around, we are asking for the domestic workers. We want them specifically to come and talk to us because our union is actually part of the International Workers Domestic Federation. There's a regional movement, and so we want our domestic workers here to be part of it. Now, in this capacity, the domestic workers will be persons who are employed in households. They are the caregivers. They cook, they provide health care for their clients. And so those are persons we want to engage as well. Because around the region, of course, sometimes persons look at domestic workers as, they look down on them. But domestic workers actually provide a valuable service. And that is something that many of them can attest to as well as their employers. So we're making a special appeal for them to engage us on this Labor Day as well.
Wow, interesting.
And Michelle, I know that you have worked in the Office of Labor and know that you have qualifications in labor relations. How has it been for you? How is the office, based on your experience in the past, has the office been working towards the Labor Day activities? That's that. Traditionally, if the office, because we have the labor union, and I'm wondering now if the office, the Ministry of Labor, when you were there, whether or not they would have been a framework in which they work towards the activities on Monday.
Not entirely. Like for this year, I see that the schedule and the week of activity is close to this date. So I think that is more to try to get things in line with the Monday. But while I was there, it wasn't much to this time. So I think, no, this is the importance of getting it all.
Right. So maybe now we're making strides.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that has always been a curiosity for me. So I grew up seeing both of my grandparents, and I moved to St. Kitts when I was 12. And so for me, the only thing that I actually knew about Labor Day was, well, it was a holiday, so it was an extra day in the weekend. And I know that both my grandparents would participate in the march. And then I think I remember my mom participating in one of the marches just before we left, and my dad. So, you know, when I came here, I'm accustomed to seeing like big crowds, and there are lots of unions in Guyana. There's a union for almost every sector. So for me, it was like, okay, let's go out and look at the march because I want to see whatever. And then I noticed that the representation and participation was not of the same size. And I was just like, well, what's going on? So it's always been a curiosity for me, like, where is the disconnect? And so that was my whole motivation for putting together the panel. I'm trying to find out, where is the disconnect? Is it that the labor department or the actual employers? Because being an employer myself, I am trying to find out, like, what is it that we can do to let persons know that the labor union is not for a specific sector of society. It's for everybody that works. It's not just for persons who vote labor. It's for everybody.
And,
right? So,
and piggybacking off of that, and I'm glad that Candy came up with the idea to really talk about the labor union, the Labor Day activities. For me, and I speak for myself, I don't speak for anybody else. I speak for myself when I say this. From growing up, the labor union, and especially the celebrations on Labor Day, to me has been heavily politicized in the sense that we see, especially this year, we see a slew of political activities gearing up persons to participate in the march on Monday. When I think as an individual, as an attorney, as a citizen of St. Kitts, and this is why I'm glad we have persons here who represent the union and a person who would have been a part of the ministry. I would have thought that such a activity would be independent of a party and more ran in conjunction with the Ministry of Labor and the union, so that it gives the appearance or the presence that it's for everyone. What I have seen, and especially when I listened to the public meetings just a while ago, last night, and the activities, it seems as though, one, it is only for persons who support the Labour Party that, or it seems like a big Labour Party event. And that is what I wish would be different. That's just my take on it.
same here.
But I can sort of give some information which I believe would allay all fears with respect to what happened, because this is how it grew. It came out of the bosom of the workers. Remember, I told you what happened in 1932. That's where it started and where the marching actually came into being. But as Comrade France, the national hero, used to say, the labor movement is a combination of the labor union and what was then the Workers' League, now called Labour Party. And Comrade France used to always say, it's like a man with two hands. If you chop off one hand, the man is weaker for it. And so, out of the interest of workers' rights, you had the Workers' League being formed, because that is how it started with Thomas Manchester and those people. The right of workers. But then, as the years went by, the workers' section had no political rights. In fact, I bought a book here to show you that in 1937, only two persons representing workers were in the forerunning of anything. That was Thomas Manchester and Edgar Challenger. And those two persons, in fact, left the organization when it started to be more political than trade union. But it couldn't help. It's the development they need, because workers had no say in terms of the laws, because they were not in politics. And they were compelled, not forced, but compelled to take the political position in order to get benefits for the workers, because the benefits did not only come from negotiations with the employers. You wanted the political position in the National Assembly to bring about labor laws, which was important for the development of the working class. And that is how the Workers' League became involved in the political situation. When Robert Batcher came into the trade union movement, he was a trade unionist. But he saw where there was strength in taking the political position. And that is, it just fell into it. Now, it's a little different today. I mean, I have strongly held the view that when I go to march, I march as a trade unionist. But it suited others to make it a political thing. I'm not blaming them of anything, doing anything wrong. But in order to get the crowd support and the support for your political survival, you had to do that.
But Stanley, question. I understand on that basis, and during that time it was basically to gain political strength. But in today's society, where it is that we have already we're independent now, because I think back on the premise that you made, it would have been a situation where we were fighting for our independence because we were still a colony. But it's a situation now where we are an independent country. And my question to you, don't you think that if it continues to be in tangent with a political party, that only certain people would feel comfortable to go out?
It is correct. That is correct.
You know, somebody on the chat is saying...
The reason why the party leaders left the trade union, they gave up their positions in the trade union. The political leaders no longer hold office in the trade union, so that it's kind of questionable. But they are not the leaders of the union. The union has its own leadership. The union has its own leadership.
Mr. Franks, would you say that we have done maybe not so good of a job showing the separation? Because, and I take it, somebody on the YouTube chat is saying, well, call it Workers' Day instead of Labor Day. And, you know, it's funny that they say that, because when you're working, you're laboring, right? And a lot of the other Caribbean islands have the celebrations the same day. But I mean, I can see it from their perspective because of the whole political entanglements. So what strides have we made over the years to show that separation?
The union has done that. The union has said, and it is the union officers who took the position that the political leaders could not hold office in the trade union. Right now, there is no political person holding. Actually, I argued against it. I thought that the political leaders should have some say in the union. We're not saying the union, but should hold office. And I changed my mind, because when the reality of the situation came along, I had to change my mind. But as Comrade France used to say, this me, your twin. If you separate one becomes weak. So therefore, the two have to join together.
Michelle,
Sorry.
As a trade union, a labor relations specialist, someone who have studied the area, we see the situation in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we've seen where Mr. Franks has said that the birth of the party and the union, you know, the merger, the twin dynamic. Based on your study, based on your knowledge and your experience, would you say that this is what is the best practice within your profession, and based on what you have studied and what you...
For the Labor Day?
Well, not just for the Labor Day, but for the party and the union to be twins.
But they're not. necessarily twins. What Mr. Franks was explaining is back then, trade unions were actually illegal. But if you operate as a political party, it's legal. So that's why they try to use that to, petition on behalf of the workers in that political sense. And then when, in 1940, when it now became legal, and then there was the St. Kitts and Nevis Trades and Labor Union. So it was kind of difficult to separate the two, knowing that, all this time we had to operate as a political entity. So it was difficult to separate the two. But there's a clear distinction now in modern day, industrial relations and everything. Politics is politics, the trade and labor union is a trade and labor union, but you can't ignore the history of it all. For me, for Labor Day, knowing that history, what I would like to see, yes, I understand the political part of it, so yes, I want that to be present. I want all the unions to be present, and I want the workers to be present. That is what I would like to see for Labor Day.
I mean, why I ask that is because we do understand the genesis of it, and you're correct with the terms of unions, because we realize back in the day, it was founded upon for persons to exercise certain rights.
Right.
The rights that we have now, many of us take for granted, weren't given or weren't afforded to us back then. But in a situation present, and we're going to welcome callers to weigh in on the conversation as well, in situation present, especially during the whole slew of weeks where we see, I see just yesterday, I heard politicians, members of parliament, ministers of government screaming on a platform, yes, acknowledging the rights of persons, but I would have preferred if instead of using that political angle, that it would have been ministers of government, our ministers, especially with the Minister of Labor, in a setting where they speak to the people, the importance of Labor Day, the importance of the union, the importance of all of us as citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis exercising the rights as workers, rather than screaming from a political platform and sometimes, to me, grandstanding and politicizing an activity what I think should be separated from politics. But we'll invite the callers to weigh in on the conversation.
I have a quick question before we go to our first break. Precious, how many unions are there in St. Kitts? Because I know there are a lot of different sectors. So there's teachers, there's nurses, domestic workers, agricultural workers. So how many do we actually have registered, and how easy is it to get one registered?
Well, from my knowledge, the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union, we are the most representative body in terms of the umbrella of workers that we represent. We have various sectors of workers, and so let me just indicate that the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union represents all workers. We are not political, we represent all workers. I remember I had a question, somebody asked if we only represent Labour Party supporters, and so there's a misconception in the public domain as well that I need to address. So thanks that I have the opportunity now. So yes, we are the most representative, so much so that we actually sit on a number of national committees as the workers' representative. We are on the National Minimum Wage Advisory Committee. We are also on the National Tripartite Committee. We are also on the Social Security Board. And so I think people should take all of this into context in terms of the representation that we offer. We are not a political arm. We are there to represent all workers. We are there to represent the workers, represent their grievances, whatever issues, we are there to educate them as well. So in terms of how many unions, though, we know that there's the teachers union. I'm not sure Mr. Franks could chime in, but I'm here to speak on behalf of the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union in terms of us having that umbrella structure of representing various sectors of workers. In terms of the domestic workers, though, at our conference last year in October, we actually introduced that section in terms of our efforts in going out to mobilize that section of workers, the domestic workers.
Awesome.
Quite successfully. We have done that. But let me understand that just as the workers have the right to form whatever the union they want, the employers also have that right. And look at what is happening in St. Kitts. You have the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and they represent the employers. In Trinidad, it's not like that. You have the employers' representation, and you have the other sector represented by the people in business, the business sector. That totally here in St. Kitts, the employers and the business sector join together as the Chamber of Industry and Commerce.
Oh, okay then.
But this is how it is. We think it's some situations which came out of what the circumstances were. It's not that it is right or wrong. It is that this is how it developed. Now, we feel as though, as in other Caribbean countries, we should have a national body representing workers in whatever aspect of worker organization here. You come together and join a national workers body. A confederation of unions, as in Jamaica, for example, the biggest of it. And each union has a political party that they support. In Trinidad, the same thing. Up and down the Caribbean, in Guyana. But we being as small as we are, whatever resources we have, we put it where we think that it may serve, and this is what has happened. But I believe now people are getting more educated in respect to the difference between worker and employer. Now we see the need to not only just worker and employer, workers and government.
Right.
We're now beginning to see it.
Yeah.
Because I see some people become disadvantaged. Oh, because it's the government, that's where you get it done. Or you only get your work because of the government, and so on. So we're going to have some time. I wouldn't live it long enough to see it. But it's going to happen sometime. You're going to have the break. Because people, the common man is now beginning to understand that there's a difference and there's a different need, and will adjust themselves to the circumstance.
Okay, it's
Perfect.
8:35, and we're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we'll be taking your calls on Island T and our labor panel as we dig deeper into the history and traditions of the labor movement and how it evolved over the decades.
The Sound 99.9
Hey, where you going in such a hurry?
This VAT day, I head into all TDC retail stores to shop. TDC Home and Building Depot, Automotive Division, and City Drug Store in Nevis. I'm making sure that I get my 20% discount and VAT day reduction savings on 28 April.
Why, I know they always make we get the best VAT deal, you know. Will I come in with you?
It's much more than that. They're the VAT day specialists. So this VAT day, we go shop and save with TDC.
You don't know.
This offer is also available on shoptdcgroup.com. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Music's finest artists converge in Bastia from June 22nd to June 24th for the 25th hosting of the St. Kitts Music Festival. Hitting the festival main stage will be Skillibeng, Chronix, Coffee, Byron Messiah, Anthony B, Governor, Romaine Virgo, TJ, Valiant, Grand Masters, Collision Band, Small X Band, New Vibes Band International, Mr. Bagdal, Akai You Sweet, Preedy, Guess the Band, Ricardo Drew, Patrice Roberts, Skinny Fabulous, Nyla Blackman, Static, Erika Edwards, Gumbs, 313 Family, Gramps Morgan, Nature B, Ear Supply, Dexter Daps, and Burner Boy. It's the 25th edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from June 22nd to June 24th at Warner Park. An experience like no other. Tickets are now available at stkittsmusicfestival.com.
Every passing must work. I don't like that. Work. Every passing must work. Young or old. Work harder.
And we're back with our labor panel. The phone numbers are 466-0989, 662 and 762-0989. If you're calling from the US or Canada, you can call 718-285-6984, 305-921-4619, and the UK is 033-344-0065. And we go back to our panel. It's 8:37.
Okay, we're back. So, Michelle, during the break, I was harassing you. What is it like being in the workplace? I know you spent some time in human resources, and I know you also spent some time working in the labor office. But what I would like to know is there any sensitization or even mention, maybe slight education about, and it might be a ticklish subject for some employers because, of course, they don't want to weaponize anybody. They don't want them to know, well, you have recourse. If it is that I do dismiss you and it's unfair or unjust, you have a recourse. But how is it handled in an office type setting or a workplace type setting?
Okay. In terms of sensitizing persons about the unions, it's almost non-existent. And I'll explain why. Here in St. Kitts, where we're a bit different, I find that we have done a fairly decent job in putting proper legislation in place to protect workers. The most important one is the minimum wage, because most of your grievances as workers come from if you think you're being paid unfairly. So I think the establishment of the minimum wage, that has eliminated a lot of issues or problems that persons would be, want to join the trade unions. Not saying that that's the only reason. So I think because that has been established, so persons can be exploited, much is not encouraged, or we don't speak much about the unions. Not to say that the unions don't have work to do, because they do. They do. Union representation is important. But because there's that level of comfort in the workplace, much persons don't usually, discuss it or are encouraged to join until something now happens. That's when, persons are saying, well, I should have been a part of, or maybe I should join.
But you mentioned legislation. Is it that our legislation is intact and in such a good place that we can find recourse in the legislation as opposed to joining the union? So maybe that whole political arm that existed before there was a separation where, like you mentioned, they had to use politics to get it together initially. Is it that we've become so strong and firm in our legislation that it kind of puts the labor union in a corner?
That was done because of the trade union. When you had the Protection of Employment Act, when it came into being, it was to give persons or workers a different alley to go through if they have grievances, because the Protection of Employment Act is wide in terms of that, updated and so on. Because the Labor Department, as it stands, is a neutral body.
Right.
They don't represent the employers, they don't represent the workers. But what they do is to assist with the balancing act so that you can have solutions for whatever kind of issues may arise between employers and employees, and to make recommendations. They have no powers of enforcement. The most they can do is to pass it up to the labor minister, who will probably assist and probably channel it to the courts if you have if it is a breach of the Protection of Employment Act. So the point is, as you correctly said, that in the Caribbean, St. Kitts Nevis has been the most dynamic in terms of labor laws.
Okay.
Found.
As it relates to that, the
We do
labor
have two
laws.
callers.
We have
Let's go
callers.
to-
Callers, go ahead.
Hi, caller. Go right ahead, Island T.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Given the history that was outlined, it was somewhat inevitable that the Labour Party would leverage its links with the union to increase its power base. And additionally, it was, I think, closely aligned philosophically to unions. Okay? But what was equally inevitable was that the opposing parties would try to weaken that base. And they did that in our case, I think, by doing things like abandoning the closed shop arrangement, undermining agreements that the union had made, and forming competing unions. Mr. Franks would probably remember WAM, Waterfront and Allied is something. Okay? But given all of that and the fact that the work environment has changed, almost bypassing unions, making them redundant, couldn't the competing sides come together, the political arms that is, come together to collaborate to make sure that workers, that the day becomes about workers. And I know it would be transformational and it would be hard to do given our situation, but it can be done. And whichever side make the steps to approach that kind of unifying effort, I think they would be rewarded immensely. And one other thing, you realize that red is the color adopted worldwide, generally for workers unions. And that, I think, would create a problem, all right? But not one that can be solved somehow, I don't think. But that's the environment that we're working with. And like I said, it really would be nice if all the workers would come together. The parties have the galvanizing ability to bring all of them together. But as in the case of most union things, who will bail the cat? Yeah, that's it. That's my intervention.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. We have another caller.
We lost that call.
I was making the point that, yes, we have laws that protect employees and employers. The Protection of Employment Act, which we have in St. Kitts and Nevis and adopted over the 1980s. We're now in 2023.
Call.
Yeah, I think that significant changes should be made to that, especially when you look at Antigua and Barbuda, which has now codified and legislated a lot of the common law practices into their acts and laws.
Caller, go ahead.
Go ahead, caller.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Stanley.
Good morning.
To everyone. It's nice hearing my good friend Stanley and all the others. And I want to wish Miss Mills well. Now, as Stanley intimated, it is the political arm that has really weakened the union. There's no getting around it. I was glad to hear Miss Mills said that they intend to have tables. I don't know if Stanley would remember. I have been calling on former Dr. Douglas. Since you have a Labor Day march, why not have tables where people can go and join? Because you have a captive crowd, eh?
That was my next question.
The young people, they're neither Labor nor PAM. They go behind the bands because they want music. But when they reach the pasture, they should be not just to inquire, with application forms. And another thing, the workers in the union office are often too involved in party politics. You see them, you hear them, so people are afraid to approach them.
Ms. Henry, Azard here. Another point weighing in on your point is the fact that the trade union, as Precious Mills said, would be at the Patiala's playing field. But then who are the speakers on the platforms?
But that is it.
So
you know, it has gone from bad to worse. And
Yes.
Stanley could the union, because I older, I'm 75.
So we're not hearing the voice of the
No, even when
executive.
fellow Fidel was trying to rebuild, he never got a chance the last time to go up on the stage. So while you hear the party rhetoric and the stripe and the gripe,
And
you
that's,
know, and the thing is, Stanley made a point. If the party and the union are about arms, right? Why hasn't the union progressed on the Labour Party government? Because no matter what thing you're going to bring up. And again, the Labour Department, the laws, as Shomel said, give the workers a lot of rights and other places to go to. It is true that that since there are no other really active workers unions, by default, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Union become the workers' representative, even though the people are not members. I would like to find out from Ms. Mills, what is the approximate members of active financial members in the union?
That was a question I was going to ask as well.
At one time, they had over 4,000, you know, I'm telling you because I did research at the archive from 4,000. The sugar industry has closed, but the workers have moved into the service industry. Why hasn't the union followed them? Why are hotels and other foreign investment enterprises be allowed or given rights to prevent unionization on the property? Because that's against the law, you know. How many hotels have thing? And in St. Kitts, maybe they don't know. As in Guyana, in Barbados, they got bank workers union, hotel workers union, everybody, anything you could think of. They're not connected to one thing. So people in St. Kitts often feel, well, it's either trades and labor or none. And what has happened to the activity of the St. Kitts Teachers Union? And Ms. Mills, is it true? I remember one time I asked a union person. They said they do not represent civil servants against the government. So could you qualify those? All right then.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Wow.
Michelle, I have a question for you. I've noticed, if you listen to the news, I've noticed it ever since I was a kid. You always get the impression that there are more unions in the surrounding islands, and they have more of a union tradition. It's more diversified. Hotel workers. Why do you, in your professional opinion, why do you think things developed so differently in St. Kitts versus the other islands?
It goes back to the history of it all. The history of it all, how the unions came about. I think our size as well plays a factor. Not the geographic size, just the size of the population. Because here we have the Trades and Labor Union emerged, after this is what they were fighting for the people.
For the one industry.
Right, for the one industry. So more were compelled to join there. And again, what I mentioned before in terms of the laws protecting the hours of work, protecting the wages of work. So I think that for those reasons, why. And then there's the whole idea now in today's world of work, we would have mentioned the stigmatization of the trades union. So I think those reasons are why we don't have as many involvement.
And I remember, I think it was Mr. McMahon, when he was making his comment, he was saying something about the competing factor or the competing parties. And in my mind, I'm thinking, who are these competing parties against the trade union? Because a comment like that suggests to me, again, that we are, when it comes to the trade union, we are towing sides.
Again, politics
because
involved.
of politics, yeah.
But what is my burning question? What is the membership like currently, and what are you guys doing to sensitize persons and let them know that regardless of where you work, the union is here for you.
Okay, you see when we got this invitation to be on this panel discussion, we were very happy about it because we are actually focused on having more visibility and a more educational drive in terms of sensitizing person about what the union is about. And so we were very happy for this opportunity. We have a new executive at the helm. We were elected in October last year. Okay. I've been the general secretary since 2019 actually, and the first female.
Yes.
So yeah, congratulations. So thank you. So the union definitely is focused on actually putting itself out there in terms. It is over 8 decades, yes. So there's a historical background and all of that, and of course the union still has relevance now. But because of the political debates and so that can be had, because as you can see, maybe 8 to 9 is not actually long enough for actually to be here and actually engage the public and answer questions, even interact with each other. And so that is our focus. We want persons to know that the union is here, we are strong. In terms of our membership, I won't give an exact figure, but I'll say we have a lot of persons. But right now we want to mobilize even more persons, and we're hoping that Labor Day actually gives us the opportunity to do so. So apart from the booth, we'll actually have a voice on the day, so there'll be an officer of our executive who will bring a message to the workers. So be on the lookout for that. We hope to have a powerful one that will resonate with all the workers, and they can see that, oh yes, the union is strong, and we want to be part of that.
Like my good friend Miss Henry said, are you guys gonna do like a membership drive on that particular day? So listen, you got y'all here now. Yes, sign up.
Definitely, we'll have registration form, and the forms are easy to fill out. In terms of, you could fill it out in probably a minute or two. Just basic information that we want from you.
Okay, trying to get in edgewise to say there's a phone call.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, and we had 3 calls at one point while Precious was talking. I love to hear Precious talk. But hey.
Thank you.
Are you guys going to live stream the event?
We have another call.
Oh, we have a call. Hello, good morning.
I'm glad I get in. Try for the morning.
Yes.
History will show that the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labour Union is less effective when the Labour Party is in government. That's what history shows. I know I'm not so old and not so young, but I heard of stories that before you were able to cut cane in St. Kitts, you had to join the union. Yet back then, if you get business from the sugar industry, you had no representative. Nobody gonna represent you, because the union and the government was one. Right now, the march will be led by the Labour Party, not the union. And you find that most of the acts, the legislation that support the workers, it didn't come under a Labour administration. You find that the strength of the Labour Union is always when Labour is in opposition. Like, for instance, the Labour Party and the Labour Union negotiated a 14% increase for sugar workers to start the 1980 crop. The election come, there was an election promise that if we get in, we will raise that 14% and give 25%. When the election was over, the 25% was given to the workers, but yet the union, along with the Labour Party, asked the sugar workers to strike because they could get more money. When them had negotiated a 14% for the workers before the elections. So it shows clearly that the union may say they have a lot of members. They may have a lot of members on book, but they're not really representing a lot of people, because before time, you hear about anything coming into saying it's any construction or anything, you had to join the union to get a job. So therefore, those names probably on the books are there, but the truth between people is skeptical of the union, especially when the Labour Party is in government. They does not do a good job when the Labour Party is in government. They fall short on that. You find the Protection of Employment Act, that didn't come under a Labour government. The severance payment thing didn't come under Labour government. Before that, people were terminated and they get nothing. And it was a Labour party and a Labour union representing the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your call. So I think you
Thanks for
guys
your
have
call.
your work cut out for you.
What he said, some is true, not all. Some is true.
Fair
Some
enough,
is true,
right.
Not all. Yeah.
And just to address something, he said that we might have a lot of workers on the book. And in terms of the level of representation that we offer, it sounds like what he's addressing. So the work of the union continues. Of course, we need to have more visibility, but I think what workers need to understand that they are actually the makeup of what a union represents. The union, of course, operates from an executive helm, but the workers are the one who can make change that we want to see as a society. And so workers need to join a union, be part of what happens in terms of the internal structure of the union. The St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union actually has collective bargaining agreements at some of the workplaces, and that's something that person should know. We actually represent workers on that level. We have authorization to go in and engage management in terms of the conditions that workers work under and things like that. Paternity leave. We can talk about meal allowance. We can talk about uniform. We can talk about personal protective wear. These are things that actually make a part of what the work environment is about. So it's not when workers just have issues. There are other things that make workers comfortable in their space. And so this is part of a broader discussions that we need to have, not just talking about grievances. Let's talk about generally improving workers' conditions. And of course, we in St. Kitts and Nevis, yes, we boast that legislative-wise, we have done well in terms of providing that representation that workers deserve. And at this time, the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union, as I mentioned before, we are part of the National Tripartite Body, and we are part of an exercise to actually put together a labor code document. The document at this point is in its second draft, and the union would have made its contribution already, including having legal consultation. And so we're looking forward to actually playing our role even further in terms of having that one document, as you referred to, the compilation of all the legislations. And of course, there are areas that person says, well, yeah, these are antiquated laws and they need to be spruced up, they need to be improved. So the work in terms of the labor movement, the labor market, the workers, it's ongoing. So workers need to understand that we're all in this together, like literally. You have to be part of the change that you want to see. It's very easy to criticize, but if you have an opportunity to be part of the change that you want to see, you have to find that door opening and get inside the door. Don't just stay out and say, this could be, that could be part of it. Find an opportunity and engage us. We're here.
I also want to make mention of the responsibilities of the duties of the Labor Commissioner and the Department of Labor in the activities and for the fight of rights according to the Labor Act. And you look at the duties of the Labor Commissioner shall be charged with the administration of the Department of Labor and shall, subject to the provisions of this act, use his or her utmost endeavor to safeguard and promote the general welfare of workers of the state. And it goes on in the other sections to talk about the power. And that is the point that I am making. I am saying that when it comes to these activities, and I'm glad that Precious Mills indicated that there would be someone from the trade unions at the Patsy Aller's playing field. But I am of the view that such an activity on a national basis should be absent from the site, that it is seen that it is a political party that is taking over the activities, spearheading the activities, running the activities. We understand that the Labour Party is in power. They have the most seats. They form the government. So they could have taken the stance through the government, through the Ministry of Labour, and in conjunction with the trade union, plan an activity that is geared towards the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. But if it is that you are not a supporter of the Labour Party or you're not engaged in party politics, you would feel a bit slighted if you were to join that match and then assemble to the Patsy Atlas playing field and then hear the leader of the Labour Party, not the Prime Minister, the leader of the Labour Party speaking to you, when I think it should be in the position of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Labour, and the trade union and other members within the Labour Department speaking on that platform.
No, and for me, it comes back to sensitization. You know, I've been getting a lot of comments, and some of the things that I'm getting is that, yes, there are legislations in place, but there are also employers that find loopholes around that legislation. So they would go throughout the week and they'd reduce the hours so that in order for you to make up your hours, you have to come in an extra day, right? And I know you mentioned that there are collective agreements with different employers, but do you guys spot check? Is there something in place whereby you are seen, you know? Because I think in sync it is like you have to see that they're doing their work, see that they're around, you know, make yourself more of a presence. And so people know that, yes, the trade union is here, they're working, and I should not be bothered by who I vote for or, you know, what party I think is in power. But my rights are my rights. These belong to me, and I need to have them enforced. So for me, it always will come back to education and sensitization. And that's one of the reasons I brought you guys on, because I wanted the public to know that the union exists. The history might have been because of politics, because that's the only way you could have gotten your feet in the door. But, you know, human resources and the Labor Department, they're active, they work, but still I have a recourse if something happens, you know. I can go and join the union and they can speak to me, speak for me, represent me, you know. So I would love to see more sensitization efforts, right? And I don't know if you guys are doing any right now or if there are any out there, but you can, you know, advise the public and also let them know how they can find you.
We're trying. Our voice was through the spokesman, but because of the modern technology and so on, it is not as loud as it ought to be in the circumstances. But we're trying our best. We're doing things. We're doing things.
But I'm glad you said that, you know, because the spokesman, it's a political newspaper. Yeah. So if I'm not, but nobody knew that.
Really?
This is the first I'm hearing. This is the first I'm hearing of it, right? Because for me, like when I go to buy newspapers, I have to buy at least 3 just to find out what's going on, right?
But Precious, you know, the common perception is that the Democrat belongs to Pam, the Labour spokesman belongs to Labour, and the Observer is supposed to be neutral and independent. So you said the Labour spokesman is the trade union. I'm like,
okay, it's 9:05. We're basically out of time, but let's try and get in one more call, given the occasion. Caller, go right ahead.
Yes, it's important to point out too that despite everything, we've done pretty well as a country, right? And some people may say that it's an imbalance in terms of the union power and political power, etc., and employers' power. But I don't think we want to upset the apple cart too much. We don't want the pendulum to swing too far in any particular direction, because we've, generally speaking, enjoyed good industrial relations compared to some of the Caribbean countries, which are more militant. So I don't think well, the union will have to define its role, but I don't think we want an adversarial type of relationship in the tripartite arrangement. Okay, and so I think that is the challenge, to get a correct balance of union representation, employers, and the government to work together for the benefit of the workers. But we definitely, we've had a history, as you well know, of being militant. Just look at what happened in 1935. Yeah. And since then, we've had spot outbreaks where particular groups of workers just decide that this is not standing anymore. But generally speaking, we don't have a really militant organization, and one would argue, based on the fact that we have done so well in the Caribbean in terms of living standards, etc., which also translates to workers' standards, increased living standards of workers. We've done so well there that, we should be careful to maintain whatever that balance is so that we can have continued progress. Okay.
Yeah. While you're talking, someone was messaging me saying that a member who was a prominent member of the People's Action Movement once, when they went into the march, was boxed in. So I guess going to the point that it seems as and it's not anything that what I'm saying here isn't alarming, because all of us live in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we know the reality of the situation. And again, when I say this, is not because I may not be a supporter of that party or a supporter of the other party, but I mean, when you look at certain things, I stand on certain fundamental principles that the party politics should be separated from the governance and the state, and there should be a clear distinction between two of them. Because if you blur the lines, then I think the more you blur the lines and actively do so, it leads into a situation where democratic principles are eroded or could be eroded.
To the best of your knowledge, has the opposition ever participated, and anyone can jump in and answer, in the Labor Day march?
When you say the opposition,
not the Labour persons.
But I think other persons, I mean,
quotes.
Yes.
Interesting choice of words.
So you see, that is the atmosphere, and it became alarming to me most of all this year when I saw, because before it's always there, but I find this year it was more in your face that it is political at all costs. When you see the Labour Party and their representatives, I'm not saying that they can't, and political parties can't engage in supporting workers' rights, but when you see them, our political parties dominating, making the atmosphere one of contention and not one of celebration of rights, but division. That is where I said, and I listened, and you could hear the shouting, you could hear the anger in the voice, and you're like, this is what Monday gonna be all about.
Right.
You understand? Instead of
and that is why the union needs to be bolstered. That's why they need to be boosted, because it really should be you guys having the campaigning and the speeches, and then if they want to come on board, then they come on board. I for some reason I think I remember seeing persons go out and marching. Maybe it was a year or two ago, maybe just before COVID, wearing different color shirts other than the red. And it's funny that the red is such an issue, because all over the Caribbean, red is used to represent the labor movement, meaning workers' movement.
But
right? Maybe we have to change the white in St. Kitts.
I don't think you need to change the colors. Because for me, if I feel like wearing a red shirt, even though I might be a supporter of the People's Action Movement, I wear a red shirt. Because at the end of the day, it's just a color.
It's a color.
I just wear
we
any
put
shirt.
So much emphasis on color here.
I think what it is, because it has been so politicized on the day, that persons who might not support the Labour Party feel as though they should not wear red, because they feel as though it goes to a political agenda. Where if it were a government initiative, because the Labour Party is in government, all they had to do through the ministry and the Ministry of Labour was to encourage persons to come out with the trade unions. And we see the roles that the Labour Department have in the fight for workers' rights. Come together, make it a state, or make it a celebration where, even though it is still spearheaded by the Labour Party because they're in government, that's the point I'm proving, but it comes across differently.
Fair enough. Just before we slip out, Michelle, do you think it is that employers are somewhat intimidated by unions here, or anywhere for that matter?
Not our employers.
Yeah. It's yes and no. It's yes and no, depending on the sector. But that it's just intimidation if they're intimidated, but cannot deter persons from joining if they want to.
If they do want to join, the opportunity exists.
Protection has been the law that is there to encourage people to join whatever they want and so on.
Do you guys have specific requirements as to who can join the union?
No.
Anybody?
No, anybody.
Okay, one last question before we wrap it. This is a Michelle, actually. It's something I just thought of. I was listening to a segment yesterday about labor, and I just realized, I didn't actually realize this before, that all along the Department of Labor has been elevated to a full ministry. Functionally, what does that change? Does it change anything in terms of the administration of labor rights and workers' rights, employment rights, and that kind of thing?
No, the rights, no, because the rights come from the laws.
Okay.
So in terms of the powers of the Labor Commissioner, all those remain the same.
Okay.
Sorry, and also let me just chime in to say that we have 2 officers from the Labor Department who are attached to our office as well. So it goes hand in hand in terms of us addressing workers' matters.
Yes. Perfect. I want to say before we leave that I wish you guys the best of luck. I would love to see you blossom and grow even more. Just before we go, to also tell persons how they can get in contact with you, apart from on Monday and the March, and generally speaking.
So our office is located on Church Street. It is at Massey's house. Our contact number is 465-2229. And our email address is info@sknunion.com. We have an open door policy. Come right in and have a conversation with us. And we hope to see all the workers out on, International Workers' Day, Labor Day, May Day. Workers, it's all about you, and we want to see you.
Oh, Precious.
Thank you so much.
Before you go, I have somebody who's drilling me for a question. They asked if there are any non-labor supporters on the executive of the union.
Of our executive?
Yeah. If they are...
How do they know who they vote for?
All we have is union members.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when you understand what the nature of a trade union is about, even though sometimes when we operate within certain professionalities and we have our maybe political biases or what's not, we have to understand, we have to remove a hat and focus on what the vision of an organization is. And that is why you have an executive. You have different personalities, and we do checks. And so, so we have to focus on workers. Workers, we are the voice of the workers. We have no place to have political biases in terms of representing workers.
Massey's house on Church Street is the property of the Candisie Trades and Labor Union.
Thank you so much for that. Perfect way to wrap up.
So I want to, again, thank all of you for coming here. I think it was an excellent discussion, something that needs to be had. And of course, discussions such as these help to push forward St. Kitts and Nevis, because we are the ones who are going to be here as long as we live to enjoy St. Kitts and Nevis, and it's only for the better. So I know my criticisms were a bit loud this morning, but it comes with no ill will or ill intention, but just a concern
added to the
that
discussion, because it really needs to, that separation really needs to occur. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And see you on Monday.
Yes.
You're great.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
You think you could pull up next to me in any Nissan, Mazda, or Toyota? Boy, please, I need a Honda man.
Give your car some TLC with CNC Auto Services Limited, located on the Bay Road by Steer. We're your local agents for genuine Honda parts. Plus, we've got some sweet deals happening right now on suspension and brake pads, ignition coils, coolants, oils, and filters, with tires priced at $188. We've also got car batteries at the crazy low price of $345. So don't wait until your car is in dire need. Stop at CNC Auto Services and Honda today. Telephone 465-9317. For some speedy service and some unbeatable prices, your ride will thank you.
So check out how we rolling, rolling, rolling. So check out how we rolling. So check out how we rolling, rolling, rolling. She said she want a man, I want the driving man. She said she want a man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
Supermarket shoppers understand that convenience matters. At Hortsports Value Mart IGA, we know that price matters most. Ample parking and the widest variety matter. At Hortsports Value Mart IGA, we know that price matters most. Clean, spacious aisles and the highest level of customer service all matter. At Hortsports Value Mart IGA, price matters most. We've renewed our commitment to guarantee the lowest prices in the Federation. Why? Because we understand that in this tough economic environment, price matters most. Shop smart. Shop Value Mart, where price matters most. Farms Estate Nevis and Wellington Road, St. Kitts.
Price matters most. You ever hear Earthquake call and say, "Hello, Miss Lee, yes, it's me, Earthquake, I come in Tuesday around 10? No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it come, it shake all sense and sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking starts, you know it's earthquake. Make a quick move to a safe place. Don't run to the door, we are in the exit. Stairs might block up or full of people. Elevator, avoid that because you might get in and poof, power gone, and you're stuck in that box without ear. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner, and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH, drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls and doors in an earthquake, bad news. Take care yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drop and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, don't want to run outside and ask, you feel it, you feel it? Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH, drop, cover, hold on.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WINNFM.
Have you seen that post about Kayla in Snapchat? Lol, too funny.
What is funny about them spreading lies?
You can be so uptight. It's all in good fun.
It's only funny when it's not about you.
I heard it's true. Plus, they have video with her and 2 guys from my class.
Look, stop it.
Don't tell me what to do, baby sister. You can be such a pain.
Pain or not, stop saying those things about my friend. She's hurt enough as it is.
This is too good not to share.
Give it to me.
Mom, tell Lisa to give me my phone.
I don't care.
Give it to me.
No, she's in the hospital. That stupid video and all those mean things you all have been saying got to her. She tried to kill herself. So no, I won't give it to you.
Are you being cyberbullied, or do you know someone who is engaging in cyberbullying? Don't keep silent. Talk to a teacher, guidance counselor, your parents, or a trusted adult who can help. Break the silence. Remember, reporting is not snitching.
This message is brought to you by UNICEF, UKAID, Crime Stoppers, and this station.
It's 9:22, and we are standing by for fireproof. We should have the fireman showing up at any point.
What do we do in the meantime, Dad?
Well,
I think that's what he wants us to do. On
He
in
keeps
here.
putting on this music.
Yeah.
You know, what did you think about our discussion? I enjoyed it because I felt like I learned a lot.
I enjoyed it so much as well. I think that discussions like this should be had. For me, I think it, as I said before, it was like a pet peeve for me seeing how our ministers of government, you know, instead of coming together and instead of making it from a government standpoint, actually made it highly political. And that has been my real qualm. I mean, I listened to the meetings that they've had, and you know, I saw the comments and so on. I'm thinking, just yesterday while I was driving, listening, I thought to myself, well, the engagement seems as though they are fighting against somebody else and no one else. This isn't an election time. I'm
Who
thinking,
are they fighting against?
Yeah, I'm thinking they have already won. They've won convincingly. The margin of victory showed that they have beaten then in the 2022 election the People's Action Movement and the People's Labour Party. So obviously now they have a mandate that they should work upon going through the 5-year period that is given to them based on our constitution and our regulations.
But see, for me, on the flip side, my thing is, yes, they are doing that, but are the oppositions on the other end bolstering their persons who will listen to them? So, okay, yes, and I honestly agree that you should see a separation, you should sense a separation. Maybe the trade union should start doing, you know, talks and campaigning leading up to Labor Day, just to let people know we're here, we're still existing, we're strong, you know, you have these rights. But to take it from the other aspect, if it is that the Labour Party is basically bolstering and riling up their supporters, then why isn't the party doing that? Why isn't the PLP? Wait. Why aren't they, when they have their meetings leading up to Labor Day? Because I know there was a recent live, and I'm pretty sure that the PLP is also having meetings. Why aren't you telling them, listen, guys, we're going out to march on Labor Day because we are all laborers. This is for us. It's our day. It's not Dr. Drew, Dougie, all the Labour ministers' day. It's our day, and make it that type of atmosphere.
I think that's, you could say that, but one, if for the People's Action Movement and the PLP to do the same thing, two would be, to me, hypocritical from if I were to say that that's what they should do, because I am saying that you should take out the politics out of the event. So for another party to do it, it seems as though that
how else will the PAM supporters hear the message and know that Labor Day is for them if they're not going to listen to a Labor meeting? If I don't support Labor, well, why are I going to listen to them?
But Candy, by the same thing that I said, the ministry,
remove them from
government, the ministry and the government, I think what we fail
they need to
to
make
think
their
is that
voices
the
louder.
ministry and the government at state, make it a state function.
What could have been nice if the partisanship could have been suspended on that day, and you actually have people from all parties, both government and all the parties, going up on
it comes back to the Labour
and
union being stronger.
And Jamsa, you see, this is the point that I'm making. If it comes from the government aspect, Labour is already the government. It's a Labour government, it is.
So they're not the ministry, they're the union.
They could use, instead of going through the political, instead of having political rallies during this time, they could have through the Ministry of Labour sensitization meetings, meetings where they go out as not as he doesn't go the Prime Minister doesn't go on the platform as the leader of Labour, but I'm speaking to you as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and you have also the Minister of Labour go and speak, and we are talking about workers. So we are having a government week where we are educating, and it's in partnership, in partnership with the trade union. Rather, instead of doing that, what we have seen is that they have used it, and I think they have gone.
It's a political tool now.
It's just a political tool. I mean, it has been before, but I think this celebration this time around has been. If it was a 5 or 6, it has gone up to a 10.5.
Maybe we should take the calls.
Call.
Okay.
Honestly, I am just tired of not seeing the union in existence. I know they're there, but
go ahead.
Their voice. Hello, good morning.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on the Labour, the parade, we call it celebration. Now, the whole thing have to change from next year. You don't need no color of no party to celebrate Labor Day. It's supposed to be a color neutral. You print 3,000 or 4,000 T-shirts, give it to everybody and their workers. You have to put workers on the T-shirt as well. Not that Labor Party. This red thing is what crippling the whole thing. Cut out the red T-shirts with kids who don't know about working. You got a couple hundred kids well dressed up in red. They don't know what's going on. Cut that red thing out and have just a Labor Day parade, a Labor Day, what you want to call it. But cut out the red shirt and make it a neutral color, and everybody wear the same color. Whether you're Palm, Labour, CCM, whatever. Everybody can march. St. Martin does it all the time. They have no color of no party in their Labor Day celebration. No color, absolutely. The colors you see is the union colors, the yellow. Because remember, St. Martin have about 10 Labour parties. They represent resorts, they represent civil servants, they represent everything. The government does not get involved with Labour Day in St. Martin. They dropped that years ago. No political party runs a Labour Day march. No party.
I agree with
People
you.
run the party.
Thank you,
I like that idea, and I said as much to Precious. Why don't we just use white as the color when we're celebrating the day, so anybody can put on a shirt? Because he's right. The color of the shirt is half of the issue.
And again, I'm not saying that political parties can have celebrations on the day, but the main focus, the main activity should not be spearheaded through a Labour Party, through a political party, because they not only they have their party function and they also have government. So they are the government. They are the ones who have the administration. They are the ones who run the ministries. They are the ones who run the departments. So they could have gone through it as a departmental exercise. You understand where it is that they educate and where it is that they try to bring persons of all walks together to celebrate. But how it is, it seems as though it's I could do this bigger and better than you, and this is to me. Yesterday I said this seem like a Labour convention, a Labour Party convention. It seems like a Labour Party rally.
Not a small L convention.
No.
Funny, yeah? Wow.
The thing is, I still believe that it goes back to education and sensitization, right? And it just means that the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labour Union needs to be bolstered, they need to be boosted, and they need to be separated. They need to show that clear separation, right? Yes, we understand that your history is bound in politics because that was the only way to get the message out and to gain your power. But now you've gotten your power, you are actually existing, and it is a completely separate, department. So let's see that separation.
Michelle said something I didn't know. I didn't realize that. It was interesting to hear labor history. I didn't realize that trade unions were illegal and while parties.
That's why.
So,
but Mr. Franks
realize
alluded
that,
to it initially. He said the only way to get heard and to get anything passed, you had to make it a political party so that you could actually have something to stand on. And then I think Michelle said in 1940 it became legal to actually have the union. And
the thing about it, a lot of rights that we now have and we exercise, if you look at it, perhaps 70 years ago, these rights were not afforded to us.
I really wish we had delved a little more into occupational safety.
Yeah, perhaps
and
we could
how
do
those things.
We could
are
do that
done.
at a different
We could probably do a follow-up.
Yeah, that would be
because I just-
excellent.
And bring back, yeah.
I really
Yeah.
just
Probably
wanted
bring
the
back Michelle.
audience to
Yeah.
go out and
Yeah.
take your right, stand your ground. Like, this is something that is
But
ours.
the-
It
the-
is not
the
the
audience-
political party.
But
you
but
know.
if it is already if it
It's
is
ingrained, so
if
it's gonna take
ingrained,
time to break
and if
it,
it is
yeah.
that it is the political party clearly, because regardless of what is said, the perception is you see in the political party representatives on the platform every day during this last week speaking about the match, speaking about what is going to be a part of the match and all of that.
And you're not here in the union.
You're not here in the union. You're not here in the Ministry of Labor. And so at the end of the day, it is coming
You're here
across
in the
as
ministry,
though
but it's true.
through
A
their-
political person.
So you in your mind, well, this is a Labor party
It should be maybe
event.
the labor commissioner should speak, maybe the minister.
Exactly.
you know,
And that is
type
what
of
I'm
thing.
saying. Take it from a
The
neutral
executives
stance.
of the trade
Exactly.
And you
union.
know what I thought too? I thought when it comes to things like independence, it should be political. Independence belongs to all of us. It should the same way you would celebrate independence and all of these through your state.
I
You
mean,
understand?
You see that thing?
Through your state, through the government offices. Why can't we celebrate an activity like this through government offices as well?
Someone made a good comment here.
Go ahead.
She says, why even when other parties were in office, the Labour government always march? So to me, the Labour Party are always supporting the workers. And you see, that is also a good point.
Conveniently.
But it's also a good point because what happened when it was unity? They still had a Labour Day march, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the thing about it, and that's the thing, when there was PAM and Unity, they still had the Labour Day match, and the Labour Day match was organized by the Labour Party. You understand?
Yeah.
So the Unity Coalition did not participate in the march that year?
Why would a political party participate in a match that is organized
by the
by another
opposition?
political party for an agenda? Be realistic, they would not. And someone just
Fair
sent
point.
me a message saying that Labour Day during Bradshaw's time and Southwell, they never wore red. They wore any and all colors. There was never a color scheme, never. It's during the time of, and they said Dr. Denzel Douglas, it became red, color matter. But they said the Bradshaw led match in the past because back then Bradshaw was also a leader and president of the union.
But in all the other Caribbean islands, it's red and white. I can tell you that from what I've seen and what I know. It's the Workers' Day March, the May Day March, and the color is red and white.
Okay, guys, it's 9:34. Actually, Tim is here.
Yes.
For
We were
Fireproof,
waiting on him.
He's waiting on his Skellig people. So, okay, you guys maybe
Yeah.
can chat for another 30
so
seconds.
I
I'm just going
mean,
to pop outside for a
I
second.
think this is a hot topic, and I think a lot of people are afraid to touch it because, when you within certain parameters, you feel boxing. You feel like you can't speak. And if you speak, you see the persons out there, because you have a position, an opinion against what it is that
It's
their
held against
party,
you.
they feel as though you should not speak and you should feel muffled or stifled to talk about something that you might have a different opinion on as opposed to what their party is doing. So when I saw it, I said to myself, okay. I mean, when I saw the celebrations, I thought, okay, then they're celebrating. But then the more I listen to the public meetings, then the more I see the rhetoric, and hear the rhetoric, and the more I observe, I was like, what is this? This is supposed to be a day for all
It
workers.
would be good to do a follow-up after.
And it is different.
And just take it apart, analyze it, what actually happened on Labor Day and at the march.
And to me, it's different. If it were that they were not the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and have the power of the executive, then I would have said, okay, then what they're doing, they're just having their own functions. But if you have executive power, because you form the majority, then use your executive power to highlight such an activity through the stage,
Use
through the
your
ministry.
Voice, responsibly.
Yeah, and so, I mean, persons might disagree with me, but that's my
Everybody's
opinion.
entitled to their own opinion, and we have our fireman in studio.
Yes.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank
Did you
you.
get a haircut?
I did. I did.
How are you doing this week?
I am fine.
You guys have been busy all week.
Well, yes, we have.
Wow.
We have been engaged in a number of activities. We currently collaborated with Skelec on a number of their initiatives that they wanted to perform, and it kept us busy.
It worked well. So, guys, we're talking with Officer Martin, our regular visitor on the Island T for Fireproof.
Yes.
And let me tell you, that exercise was all over social media. So
I
it
can
worked.
imagine. I can imagine.
It worked. We were in here having our show, and we're getting messages, oh, breaking news, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, isn't the drill scheduled because you gave us the paper last week?
I
I'm
gave
like,
you a preview.
I got a message saying someone broke into to Skeleton, and I think to myself, it's a good thing I said this on the radio. Me see it on the radio, you know, because how it is, you know, them breaking news.
Somebody said it and said,
Yeah.
pray for the person, you know, the one with the drill on the
pole.
Yeah.
Pray for the person. Our thoughts are with his family. I'm like, but wait, man, it's not part of the drill. So you're gonna explain it to us.
I guess the drill was that good. That person
figure out if
believe
it was a drill.
It was believable.
Yeah,
It was
so you
believable.
guys did a really good job in that drill.
It was that was supposedly electrocuted, man. He can play in any CSI role.
He was very
He
good.
pretended to be dead very well.
We commended him highly for his performance.
You have people calling me up and then saying, you know, oh, you got to say this
I
on the
got
radio.
that video
please.
about 5 times.
Yeah.
You need to send it if you are videotape. You need to send it to MSR.
Exactly. It's true.
Yes,
He's good
that's
for
your
any
action.
dead role.
That's your audition tape.
Exactly.
And not even his co-workers knew. I mean, up to the point where they brought him down and ambulance came for him. He was just in acting mode.
Wow, I so want to meet him. I hope that's who you guys are bringing in, because we're having some Skeleton guests coming in today, and I really hope that they're bringing that guy in. But so it was a successful.
It was
drill.
a successful drill. Yes, we were. Well, I wanted the representative to Skelec to kind of shed some, a review of everything that they did rather than me doing it. But yeah, it was quite a successful week. Now, Skelec prizes itself on safety. They have the designated person for safety and security is Miss Langley Stevens. And
Clarissa.
yes, Clarissa Langley Stevens, and she has been doing a tremendous job where that is concerned. She was able to, the Skelec, they were able to arrange a safety mitigation team, which fire and rescue is a part of. So we look at safety throughout the whole entire Skelec enterprise, so to speak. And wherever there might be deficiencies, we would highlight them. And they are on board in terms of getting any deficiency that is seen rectified. So we are pleased with the work that Skelec has been putting on in terms of safety for not only their employees but their brand as well.
Wow. And we were just having a conversation about occupational hazard and that type of stuff. So good. She could probably come back in and give us a heads up on that.
Yeah, that would be good.
So yeah.
And so that's what took up most of your week, because I saw the fire truck blazing going down my way, past my office a couple of days ago. Maybe like 2 days ago.
Well,
So
we have had other instances where we had to go and respond to various things. Up to last night, well, this morning, we had a call. A vehicle was on fire. So, so.
Wow.
We were busy here and there as well, outside of drill purposes. Yeah.
Wow! Oh my goodness! It's never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. We have learned to expect anything once we get to work.
Wow, that's like living on the edge. I'm not sure. I think I will be pacing all throughout the day.
You should take her on a day for her to be
just to see what it's like.
The
Just to see
life
what
in
it's
of a
like.
fire.
The life of a fire officer.
You know, Yolanda did
she
that.
Did
you
that
know,
series, right?
she should take you. They should take you,
yeah.
and then you come back on the radio. You say, "Well, I've had such an exciting day. I am
a planner by nature, so I am not sure how I would function as a fireman.
Yes.
Because I kind of want to plan and know what's happening and lay out everything. I mean, I'm all for spontaneity, but not where work is concerned.
But
I'm not sure how that fireman thing would work out for me.
I mean,
I was okay. Well, Tim stepped out. He stepped out for a minute. He had to take a phone call. But I was about to ask him if we've been having sort of a heat wave for the last few days.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask him if there's anything statistically if that increases bushfires or anything, because it's been really hot. Don't you
really
guys
has
find?
been, yeah. And it's weird because we're still in April. Well, practically, it's
April,
over, but it's still April on the books.
Sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
it's still
I
April.
feel. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh yes, it's still April. We have 2 more days left. Go ahead.
The kind of temperatures we have sometimes. Sometimes I feel like we should be on the Four Seasons thing, because you know cold it gets. You see how cold it gets for us. And look at how hot it is now.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple of flash floods last week, I think.
Crazy
weather.
Let him put his headphones back.
My apologies.
No big thing. Tim, I wanted to ask. I know it's been really hot the last few days.
Yes.
Has it affected the bushfire incidents or anything? Does that usually?
Not
really.
Not to any great effect.
Okay. I wondered because it's been really hot.
Yeah.
I noticed you guys had an appliance at the thing yesterday. I saw one a fire truck.
Oh, at the agricultural fair.
Yeah.
So we were there to. The place was a bit dusty.
Yeah.
They had the opening ceremony. So in an event to kind of keep down the dust, we were there just to kind of wet down the area a bit for them.
It's funny, when I saw it, I was more thinking, oh well, just in case maybe a fire started, because it was just to the left of a guy that has a big, this guy that has this like oven where he was doing chicken, and he was just about 15 feet away from that. I said, oh well, maybe they're doing that just in case. But it was kind of dusty.
Yes, it was. Greatly.
Wow. And that has been, that's one of the reasons I haven't gone as yet. A friend of mine told me she went and there was so much dust that even after taking a shower, she still felt dusty. And I'm like, I'm not trying to trigger this asthma at all.
But it's a lot of grass
by
up there. It's not as bad.
Oh, okay. Not that bad.
Between the Taiwanese and
the
Heroes Park.
How did you miss that? That road was insane
you
in
made
terms of traffic yesterday. The agriculture open day.
Across from Sugars.
A lot of persons are just making sure that. A lot of persons were saying yesterday that it was dusty.
It was but it was also packed. I think they had a very good turnout yesterday, and it had a big impact on traffic.
It was terrible. Yeah, traffic was real terrible.
I guess you guys are talking about the traffic after 4.
No. Listen, even heading up there and coming down, because I went to a meeting a little bit after 2, and I took that as, because it's directly from my office. I just stayed on the bypass, completely forgetting it's agriculture day. And then coming back, I'm in a zone again, because that's the way I usually get to my office. So I come from ECCB and I'm driving down. I'm like, oh no, it's after 4. Traffic is going to be a mess, so... It was yesterday. The traffic was kind of crazy in that area.
Yes.
But hey, it's only 2 days, so.
On Friday, traffics are always.
Yeah, and then
so
it's today's VAT day too, right?
Oh yeah.
God, I'm definitely not driving today.
Yeah.
And we are joined by the one and only.
Yes.
Introduce yourself to our audience.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Clarissa Langley Stevens. I'm the Safety and Security Manager at the St. Kitts Electricity Company.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And she's decked out in a bright orange. That takes my mind straight back to the whole drill, because both of the workers were wearing orange.
Yes.
She won't outdo me today. I walk with my pin.
Put your pin on.
But I'll gladly pass it on to one of you guys.
I'll get pins for you. Yes.
Awesome. Nice. And it says safety our number one priority. safety and security, and it's a Skelec pin, and there are 3 circles intersecting, and it says safety, health, and security. Skelec is proper doing themselves this year. So tell us about your week. You guys have been in every social media, on all the news channels. Today's our turn.
Yes, there we go. So thanks again for having Skelec as we celebrate the World Day of Health and Safety. And we're doing this in partnership with the Ministry of Labor. This is the first time that we would have engaged in a week of activities, because only since June last year, Skelec started its safety and security department, of which I'm the manager. This week we have seen, or we tried to cover all of the critical areas that you see on the pin. So there's an aspect for health, there's an aspect for security, and there's an aspect for safety, of course. When we started the week with what we call a lunch and learn. Well, of course, preempted by a message from our general manager, Mr. Clement Jomo Williams. And then we had what we call lunch and learns, and these were in partnership with external stakeholders such as Red Cross, the Ministry of Health, and we would have had one with Labour as well. And what this did was to be able to allow us to bring our employees into one space to be able to share a particular set of information, just scratching the surface on some basic topics. For example, we did basic first aid and CPR, healthy eating habits. We also had what you call a soca size, to encourage persons to understand that living healthy can be fun as well. And we know people like to dance, so we engaged the staff in a soca size, and I think that worked wonders. I was there, trust me. We need to exercise. And then today we would have partnered with Fire and Rescue. I'm going to leave Wednesday till last because I know that's the pinnacle of the whole thing. But we would have been partnering with Fire and Rescue Services to the point where we now have what you call a fire mitigation task team. And that is strongly supported by the officers at Fire as well as management of Skelec. And that brought into the conversation as to why we are here, sharing their platform with us to be able to share the message with the world that Skelec is taking the responsibility of ensuring that our employees and customers at large understand that we are doing what is necessary to ensure that they operate and do business in a safer environment. Wednesday, let's talk about Wednesday. Because I believe if nobody knew what Skelec was, they knew from Wednesday that Skelec is the electricity company. And when we had 4 major exercises, because it was our drill day, that's what we call it. And we had 4 major exercises. We had the first one, which would have been an intruder, and that would have been at our downtown office, where somebody went in simulating that they had a weapon of some sort, and to watch the response of our security, our staff, our customers, what they did, because there were so many lessons to be learned from that. And we did partner with Fire, EMS, and police on that one. Then we had the pole top rescue. Now, that was the pinnacle. I really have to commend our actor. He went to St. Lucia 2 weeks prior and engaged and placed second. And they placed second and first in 2 different categories of safety in terms of work being done on the pole, and when there is an injury, how do you deal with the individual that is injured while they're up on the pole? So that's called a hurt man pole top rescue. Never been done before in St. Kitts, never been done in the Caribbean before with an actual worker. We've always used dummies. And so this time St. Kitts and Nevis via Skelec led the trend in having that done, and it was done safely and successfully.
I have some Oscars in my office. I am going to bring one for him.
What he needs to do as well is to conduct training, because we want to make sure that skill is not only with him but with others. So he really needs to do.
And there are others. There are others. His supervisory team, the persons you saw rescuing, and believe it or not, the only persons who knew that that exercise was happening was the actor himself and his immediate manager. Everybody else, their responses were real.
Oh my goodness! The one
so it was
the
an unannounced,
truck, the cherry picker,
unannounced.
He actually thought that something happened to him.
But he was so patient, and so you could see that their training worked.
Thank you.
Because I was looking, and he tried like 4 or 5 times to unbutton him, and then he was adjusting the cherry picker. I was engrossed. And that's because, but I had like secret knowledge because I knew you
Yes.
guys were having a
Yes.
week.
Yes.
So people kept sending it to the different chats I was in, and I wasn't even commenting. I was
That's
just
right.
like, I'm sure they're going to put out something eventually.
We did. Right after every event, we had an exercise control team, and I want to thank Mr. Martin for leading that charge. That's his area of expertise, to be completely honest. Even in my other life professionally, he has been working with the entity. And I also want to, at this juncture, thank NEMA for their support via Mrs. Ulrika Lennon-Petty, who did come on board and worked with us and the other stakeholders to ensure that all of these exercises, because we also continued with a bomb threat at our annex, and that is at the Water Services
Social
Department.
media missed that one.
Apparently, and it was something that also gave the bomb squad an opportunity to test their own protocols and mechanism. And so that was the idea, Skelec partnering with the different entities, responding entities, to be able to see if they, their responses would be adequate and timely, so that if and when something really happens, we have confidence in our system. And trust me, going forward from Wednesday, I have confidence in our response system, our EMS, our Red Cross, our fire, our police, our NEMA. I have confidence in the full gambit of our response mechanism, because when the agency, when Skelec needed them as response agencies, they were there and we timed them. Immaculate. The last one we did was at our plant, where we did a rescue from on high, where we had an employee also simulating a collapse from being exposed to the fumes of diesel. And that was on one of our biggest tanks. And so we had to see how the managers and the responders would navigate to be able to get him down from there safely and get him transported to the hospital. And yes, everybody, all of the players, they knew no one was harmed, hurt, everybody is fine. And I want to thank the public for their responsiveness, because we designed these exercises, especially the Hurtman Rescue, embedded it in the community so that we could see that our communities have a role to play in what Skelec does, because at the end of the day, the service we provide is to the general public, and our infrastructure is located in communities and all over in isolated spaces. So we want to know that if you see something that looks like an emergency situation, that you're going to play your part as well. So that was the aim of the Safety and Security Department, putting on the week of activities and also highlighting some of our hazards that we're exposed to and the level of responses that we anticipate.
I think you guys did an awesome job, and all of the entities, because we had just gotten off air, and I think Azard got a message and he was like, Skelec just get robbed. I'm like, that don't make any sense, right? I'm like, that person, whoever decided to do that robbery, silly. Have they never been in Skelec? There's a guard right there as soon as you walk in, and the door has a grill. That makes no sense, right?
It was a controlled environment.
Right.
The player, the actor, was actually a police officer who would have been briefed properly to be able to ensure that we reduce the reality of any actuality.
I hope these are on your social media, because I'm going to go look.
I really want to know the reaction. So before we go into the were you there in this place when you for the robbery? Because I want to know how persons reacted on the scene for that.
So everything for the entire exercise day, we were able to use technology to monitor the responses. So from exercise control, which was at Skelec Generation, Mr. Martin and the team had visuals. We also used our surveillance system via our IT, and I really want to thank our IT department via our manager, Dwyer Edmead, for really giving us the opportunity. And everything that you saw came through the services of True Copper, as well as Akan Maynard, the drone footage.
All right, the drone guy.
Yes,
kudos,
they
guys.
were
I know both
they
of
were
them. I've worked with
tremendous.
them.
It's like we felt, if you saw where the drones were, because of course it was unannounced, so we couldn't have the drones. The drones were so far, but when you look at when you look at the images, you would think it was right over the site. Very, very far. I really want to thank our corporate communications team. I want to thank our staff support. Yes, Patrice and Janisha Hendrickson. I want to thank our staff support coordinator, Kezia Bailey. I want to thank the fire officers, Blois, the fire chief himself, Rommel Williams, and Timothy Martin. They were stellar. We had the intern with us, all of the managers from Skelec, including the manager responsible for the pole top rescue, Mr. Rondell Phillip. They did an amazing job. Our plant manager, Mr. Bennett, for allowing us the opportunity to be able to exercise in their spaces, because the responses, lack of response, our response is an avenue for us to be able to learn lessons, document them, and when we practice, to be able to get it better. So Skelec is well on its way to being a safety, compliant, responsible company, and I really want to thank the management and staff, the employees, the customers, and the community that would have helped us to make this week the success that it was.
Clarissa,
yes.
I need to thank you now.
That's what I was thinking. All of this.
And she's the person that organized it.
Yeah. No, wait. Because something you said earlier, and I went and I Googled it. Today is World, like you said, World. I sent you guys a link of a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Yeah, World Health and.
But in addition to
that, I thought that was
In addition to that, I want to say thanks to her because I know her from Nemo.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that Nemo training kicking in, boys.
I said, when she tells me, she tells us today that she's over at Skelec as the security management, as a security manager.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. I'm thinking, the connection, and now this drill, and all of,
right.
Said, this is
how.
how.
I knew when she went over, and I was thinking, boy, they just get an asset there.
Yes.
Right? And I was talking about you with someone earlier this week, and I was like, boy, how they make she slip away, right? But Skelec has gained an asset because I know that you planned the last tsunami, not the one we had recently, the one before that. And I'm thinking, she really like this acting thing, you know? but it came off without a hitch. It was excellent.
I think it was a well-deserved move, a well-thought-out move. The transition from Nemo, even though Nemo would miss such a vital asset to Skelec, because when I think about it, yes, Skelec should have a department when it comes to safety as well, because there's a lot of high-risk things. So whoever idea it was or initiative it was, I think it was a good one. You know? So I
that electrocution could have actually been very real.
Right?
And
very real.
And oftentimes when we go without electricity, we want Skelec to be on its toes to ensure that things are put back in place. Not sometimes thinking
about the safety of it, especially during hurricanes. It's still wet, it's windy.
That's right. And we go out and we do it, and we ensure that we do it wearing the necessary personal protective gears and wears. That's the responsibility of my department, and it's not an easy feat because we have to change the culture. One of the things I'm proudest about, and you see me wearing my bright orange. Orange is the color for this year for World Day of Health and Safety in terms of bringing recognition to the day. And believe it or not, Skelec is actually the only company on St. Kitts who would have celebrated the day in this magnitude, working with the Labor Department, Ministry of Labor.
So glad you said that. We just had a conversation and we're like, so we're going to have to do a panel on occupational health and safety.
That's
and then we're going to have to do a follow-up.
Yes.
We just before you guys came in.
Yes.
And it's funny that you say that because when we were talking about, we're like, we're going to probably have to bring Clarissa on that panel.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean...
It's not good enough that you guys are the only company in St. Kitts that is celebrating it and even highlighting it.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of other companies that do high-risk jobs.
That's right.
Indeed.
So we definitely...
And you know, the funny thing, I just left the agricultural field where we have a booth. Skelec has a booth, and we're displaying a lot of our wares and gears that persons wouldn't ordinarily see. Because when the guys go to fix the poles, they're up on high. If you don't look up, you're not going to see what they're wearing. So, you know, the gloves, the eyewear, the helmets, all of those things, the harnesses, and because our safety gear that you see is just, you know, scratching the surface. We have so many other components for our climbers, you know, our persons who work at our generation plant. They have a different type of wear that you would probably never see because those do not come out into the public, as the case may be. It's trust me, it's a real pride to be able to work for a company that has accepted responsibility and ownership of ensuring that our workers and persons who do business at Skelec and stakeholders understand why safety is so important to us, because we produce electricity and we distribute it, but we don't understand how dangerous it is. But we want our employees to know, well, we want our customers to know, the world to know that we know that it's dangerous, because even in a hurricane, when we go to restore the electricity, you don't care what the conditions are out there. You want your electricity back.
I mean, the first time I saw them even climbing without the cherry picker, like the belt, and I'm just there thinking, you kind of have to probably have a certain amount of training and
Yes.
body weight because the
Yes.
stuff is heavy.
Heavy.
But kudos to you guys.
Yeah,
you
thank
guys
you.
did
Okay,
an
Tim-
awesome job this week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I give you 30 seconds to wrap up. It's your program after all.
All right, thank you, Jamster. So yes, I just want to say thanks to Ms. Stevens, Clarissa Langley Stevens, for partnering with us on this very interesting week. We had a lot of fun in terms of organizing, preparations, etc. And the fact that she is a part of Skelec now, I know Skelec, they are indeed more well off than they were before with the knowledge and skills that she comes with. So I want to say thank you very much on
You're
behalf
welcome.
of the fire chief to extend that towards you. I want to encourage our the general public to stay safe and perform any kind of fire practices safely. So, limit the calls out for us to respond.
Awesome.
I just want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. And, after the end of the weekend, we're going into May.
And there is a holiday on
Yes,
Monday.
there's a holiday on Monday, which is Labor Day.
Yeah, so enjoy everyone. Be safe.
Have
Be
a good
safe.
weekend, everybody. Thanks for
Yes.
tuning in to Island Tea.
All right.
And I'm not